My name is Eric Hwang, and this is a brief intro and tutorial video on the web maps and apps I designed to aid the City and County of Honolulu Department of Emergency Management with their operations, specifically in the case of a flood crisis scenario. To begin, you can get to this splash page using the link I provided in the cover letter. This is a minimal gallery powered by Esri's ArcGIS Online, a cloud-based mapping and analysis solution that makes collaboration and sharing easier than ever before. You'll see the 9 information products and tools I created for you presented here, and each is accessible by clicking on its respective icon. Clicking on an icon will bring you the item's detail page of the product that includes additional details about the product, including its uses and data layers. The first product I'd like to show you is the Honolulu County Map Book, complete with U.S. National Grid designation and 100,000 meter square ID. The area of interest is shown within the yellow polygon, and I imagine this nationally recognized standard map grid information will be useful for your planning and operational efforts. The second product I'd like to show you is a story map journal detailing the background info and effects of Hurricane Iniki on our neighboring island of Kauai in 1992. This is an interactive story map that can be reviewed by simply scrolling and clicking with your mouse. All embedded media map content can be clicked to view. Since Oahu and Honolulu have been fortunate enough to avoid a devastating hurricane like Iniki, I tried to apply lessons learned from Iniki to better prepare your department to manage a potential flooding crisis caused by a hurricane. For example, these segments of the journal show geographic and socially vulnerable areas of Honolulu and also provide some recommendations for preparatory measures in the case of hurricane-caused flooding. Speaking of place vulnerability, the third product is a more detailed place vulnerability analysis story map specifically for Honolulu to aid in your emergency operations planning efforts. This story map works much like the map journal in that you can scroll and click to interact with items and tabs in the page. This place vulnerability analysis was conducted using FEMA's National Flood Hazard Data Layer, which shows areas within the city that are subject to flood hazards, and the CDC's Social Vulnerability Index, or SVI data, which ranks each census tract nationwide on 15 social vulnerability factors, including socioeconomic status, housing density, lack of vehicle access, etc. The closer the SVI score is to 1, the more vulnerable those census tracts are assessed to be. An intersection of the FEMA's flood hazard data and the most vulnerable census tracts identifies these areas in red as the areas most vulnerable to flooding hazards in the city. Furthermore, the story map also includes locational information on special needs infrastructure, such as hospitals, nursing homes, and schools, as well as community lifelines, or infrastructure and services such as emergency shelters and medical facilities, which will help you determine where help is available currently and plan your operations accordingly. The fourth product is a situational awareness viewer designed to aid emergency response teams with a better geographic understanding of a crisis scenario, as well as aid in decision-making with respect to the deployment of resources and personnel. I've designed this app to be user-friendly, and various helpful widgets can be used to determine information. The right corner ribbon contains toggle buttons for your legend, data layer list, and other customization options. Note that you have access to live data feeds from national organizations such as NOAA, which will be helpful during a flood scenario. On the left, you also have some tools that can help determine locational information and even turn-by-turn directions. For example, if an emergency dispatcher receives a call that there's an extensive flooding near the Neil Blaisdell Arena, you can simply search the location using the search bar, and then use the situation awareness widget to drop a point and determine what resources are available within a certain radius of the center. You can even measure distances as well as generate directions to the location using the other widgets provided. The next tool is the Ops Response Viewer, which can be used in real time by emergency management leadership and even response teams in the field to understand the current status of emergency facilities and response teams. It's similar to the Situational Awareness Viewer, but shows more data layers specific to emergency response operations, including the status of emergency shelters, location of your incident command post, staging areas, search and rescue teams, emergency medical services, etc. Much of the functionality of the widgets aforementioned in the Situational Awareness Viewer are present here as well. Now, a flooding disaster in Honolulu will affect hundreds of thousands of people, and the public will be hungry for information to improve their situational awareness as well. This Public Response Viewer is an app that pulls in the same emergency response data feeds shown in the previous apps, such as shelter locations, evacuation areas, road closures, and is accessible to the public. The best part of this app is that it can be shared easily, so your department can either embed this app on a website so the public can monitor operations in real time, or the app itself can be shared using this hyperlink. Up-to-date information coming from authoritative sources will often better inform the public, especially during the chaos of a natural disaster, and enable the masses to make informed movement decisions, which should in turn make your response operations easier to manage. Speaking of the public, two-way information flow is key during a crisis, and GIS, coupled with mobile technology, has made it easier than ever before for your department to crowdsource information from the public. This submission tool was designed for easy use by the public on their mobile devices to submit information for an ongoing crisis event. A citizen simply answers a few questions on this survey form, and then each submission will be pulled in as a live, usable data point in your situational awareness and ops response viewers, and therefore equip your emergency managers with the situational awareness to make better and more informed decisions. This tool can also be easily shared via hyperlink that you can broadcast to the public and can be accessed either via mobile browser or dedicated application. In the same vein as a public information sharing tool, this next app is designed to be used by response teams in the field to assess damage and prioritize support in flooded areas in more detail. This form asks more in-depth questions and allows the user to input more detailed information on type and level of damage, as well as upload photos and media related to the damage. All of this incident data will then auto-populate into a damage assessment tool that your department and the city can use during and after the disaster to survey damage and allocate appropriate recovery and reconstruction resources. And that brings us to the last app of the toolkit, the Damage Assessment Dashboard. This app will pull in all of the incident data submitted by our teams on the ground using the Individual Assistance Field Collection Survey and aggregate the data into an easily digestible dashboard. This information can ultimately help your department's decision makers achieve a better geographic understanding of the extent of damage caused by inundation and identify worst hit areas for potential prioritization of resources and manpower. After operations conclude, this tool can also potentially help decision makers start the recovery and reconstruction process efficiently. So those are the 9 information products and tools I created to aid your department in the preparation, execution, and recovery operations. I hope you found this tutorial informative and trust that this suite of tools will be helpful if the need ever arises. Thank you for your time and consideration.